You born because a lonely man long years ago decided to get marriage. It was not like in a modern way. It started before the ring, before the ceremony, before the vow. There was a fire, a dark night, and a man who realized he couldn't survive without someone. Let's go back. Not hundreds of years, thousands, to a time when marriage wasn't a celebration. It was a survival strategy. It's 10,000 BC. A young hunter, let's call him Kale, just killed a deer. He's dragging it back to camp, bleeding from a thorn scratch on his arm, exhausted, half-starved. And there's a woman at the fire. She doesn't say anything. She just takes the deer, cuts it properly, roasts it, and hands him the first piece. He eats. He looks at her, and something clicks. Not love, not yet. Something older than love. Something that says, I'm less likely to die when she's around. That is the oldest marriage proposal in human history. Here's what nobody tells you about ancient humans. They didn't fall in love and then decide to commit. They committed first, and love, if it came, was a bonus. Because out there, 10,000 years ago, the question wasn't, does she make me happy? The question was, does she make me alive? And the answer determined everything. Anthropologists dug up something fascinating in the 90s when they studied hunter-gatherer societies that had survived almost untouched into the modern era. Tribes in the Amazon, in Papua New Guinea, in the Kalahari. They found something consistent. In almost every single one, pair bonding existed. Not always monogamy, not always romance, but always a formal recognition that these two people belong to each other's survival network. Why? Because a lone human is a dead human. Think about what life actually looked like. You wake up in the dark. You don't know if there's food today. You don't know if there's a predator outside the cave. You don't know if the group 2 hills over is friendly or hostile. In that world, the smartest thing you could do, the single most intelligent decision available to you, was to find someone whose skills completed yours. She knows which plants are poisonous. You know how to track animals. Together, you're a complete survival unit. Alone, you're both half a person. But here's where it gets interesting. Marriage wasn't just between two people. It never was. Because in ancient communities, the group had a stake in who paired with whom. Your children were the next generation of hunters, gatherers, fighters, healers. The tribe needed those children to be strong, which means the tribe had opinions, loud ones, about who their members were pairing with. So the fathers got involved, then the mothers, then the elders. And suddenly what started as two people at a fire turned into a negotiation between families. This is where bride price comes from, not from cruelty. From economics, a woman leaving her family group meant that group lost a gatherer, a healer, a childbearer. That loss had to be compensated. So the man's family paid in cattle, in tools, in labor. Not to buy a woman, to repay a debt to the people losing her. And then something shifted. Around 8,000 years ago, farming happened. And farming changed everything about marriage. When humans were nomadic, you couldn't really own land. You moved. Property was whatever you could carry. But once you started farming and once you cleared a field, planted seeds, waited months for a harvest, then suddenly, land had value, permanent and inheritable value. And now marriage had a new job. It wasn't just about survival. It was about property. It was about making sure that when a man died, his land went to his children, his actual children, which meant suddenly, for the first time in human history, a man needed to be absolutely certain about paternity, and that certainty required control. This is the uncomfortable part. The moment land became heritable, women's freedom contracted. Not everywhere at once, not overnight, but gradually across agricultural societies from Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley to the Yellow River, the same pattern repeated. Women were increasingly confined, monitored, controlled, not out of hatred, but out of property logic. A man investing decades of labor into a farm needed to know that farm would pass to his bloodline. Marriage became a legal instrument, a contract, not just between two people, but between two families, two clans, sometimes two kingdoms. In ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, archaeologists found clay tablets dating to 2300 BC. Marriage contracts, actual written agreements, specifying what the wife brought into the marriage, what the husband owed her if he divorced her, what happened to the children. These weren't romantic documents. They read like business mergers, because that's what they were. And yet, buried inside those same tablets, researchers found something unexpected: personal clauses. A husband writing that his wife should be treated with kindness. A family specifying that the daughter could not be struck. Small, quiet human moments inside a legal framework. People trying to protect each other, even through contract language. Even then, even in that world of property and survival and negotiation, people were falling in love. There are Egyptian love poems from 3,500 years ago. A young man writing about a girl he saw across a canal, his heart racing, his hands trembling, using words that would not feel out of place in a text message today. My heart flutters when I think of your love. It does not let me walk like a normal person. Ancient Sumerians wrote hymns to their lovers. Greek soldiers carried letters. Roman teenagers carved names into walls. The transaction was always there, but underneath it, always the stubborn, irrational, completely human need to choose someone, not because they're useful, because they're them. And maybe that's the real story. Marriage started as strategy. It evolved into contract. It became religion, law, politics, economics. Empires were built on it. Wars were fought over it. Entire social orders depended on it. But through every version, in every culture, on every continent, there were always two people, looking at each other across a fire, or a canal, or a crowded room, making the oldest decision in human history. I'm less likely to disappear if you're beside me. Follow for more, thank you, and stay.